Thank you. Danny Merkley with the California Farm Bureau Federation. We do appreciate Senator Pavley's following through on her commitment, as well as the administration and others' commitment to work on this issue this year. It is a very complicated issue, as you've heard. It's an issue that was going to require a lot more time than was available last year. So we do appreciate that. As you heard, we have been working extensively for the last number of months with a very broad-based group on an alternative piece that takes a different approach. We respectfully believe that's a better approach. And as Senator Pavley mentioned, maybe some of those discussions are better in the Judiciary Committee, but just to explain very briefly, since I'm not a lawyer, what we've done is we've approached this in the Code of Civil Procedure so that we weren't going in and taking another bite at the apple or changing the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act that made extensive change to law last year. And so for that reason, we think our approach is a better approach. And we'll continue to work with Senator Pavley and her staff at seeing if we can find some compromise between these two approaches. Thank you. We respectfully ask for a no vote.
Thank you for your testimony. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Matthew Allen, Western Growers Association. We're also opposed to the bill at this time.
Thank you.
Tricia Geringer, Agricultural Council of California. Also appreciate the Senator's attention to this important issue, but we identify our comments with Farm Bureau and also opposed.
Thank you for your testimony. Any others in opposition to the bill? Senator Walk moves the bill. Senator Pavley?
Yes. I wanted to go back a minute and just talk about the groundwater management sustainability bill that looks at just the primary basins that are under severe distress, high or medium stress levels. They're either contaminated or the subsidence, they're taking out so much more water than they're putting in. They're under severe distress. So out of the 515 basins, I think it's about 125 or so falls into that road. So that is a separate bill, but it is related to this. The goal with the groundwater management bill is in 2 years you form an agency where you're one of that process. You have 5 years to develop a sustainability plan and then another 15 years or so to implement that plan. It would be a lot less expensive to go through that process, and I think most people will. We're seeing an amazing amount of cooperation on the ground. There are going to be sometimes areas where you'll have to go through the court system, through an adjudicated proceeding when people can agree how much water someone gets out of their groundwater basin. It gets complicated and is competitive. So this bill's a good faith attempt based on the testimony of our November 20th hearing. We look forward to talking to Assemblymember Aleo as his bill moves forward. It's a different approach, but Mr. Merkley is right in that the Judiciary Committee probably is the best venue to deciding whether this should be a chapter in the Groundwater Sustainability Management Act or whether it's an amendment to the Code of Civil Procedures. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Roll call.
The motion is due pass to the Judiciary Committee. Senators Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Stone?
No.
Stone, no. Allen? Allen, aye. Fuller? Hertzberg? Hueso? Jackson? Monning? Welk? Welk, aye.
Thank you. We'll leave the roll open. And we'll go to SB 248. Senator Pavley.
May I add this is the final bill for today? It's the only thing between us and lunch. Other than that, those of you who've served on this committee for a while, I think we're up to year number 3 and having oversight hearings on what's going on with the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources. We've seen them frequently, and most recently, we had a hearing on March 10th I was unable to attend, but I participated by listening over the phone. I had a medical emergency at home. But several of you here did attend. It was a joint hearing looking at the 2,500 oil and gas wells that were improperly permitted. It's the 4th year of a record drought, and I believe Dogger could have avoided this from happening. What is an exempt aquifer? How did that happen? Where do you put your wastewater? What is in it? It took several hearings on SB4, which is my fracking bill, in order that we found out from the Division of Oil and Gas that they could tell us where they were fracking wells, how much water was being used, what kind of chemicals were being used, where did you put your wastewater, who was providing oversight. The answer to any of those questions was, we don't know, we don't keep records. So that was the original beginning of SB4. And part of SB4, and I worked very collaboratively with the oil companies, I'm sure they would state that. We had an open door policy working with them. I have a record of doing that. Is that we decided the best way to do that is make sure that the State Water Board or the Air Board, these agencies that have regulatory authority over clean water or clean air, had developed not just a deference to Dogger, allowing them to pay attention to these important issues, but they actually cooperated in developing a memorandum of agreement that got the State Water Board involved. That's how we found out about the 2,500 oil and gas wells that were improperly permitted, and we got the air resources involved looking at air emissions, particularly relating to methane. Really important work being done. So this careless permitting has caused unbelievable potential harm to the oil industry, credibility, but to our own agencies here. We had that oversight hearing as the Senate Pro Tem wanted us to really dig in on some of these issues. It was well worth our time. But this particular problem is that it could be contaminating the groundwater, which is the jurisdiction of this committee, that is so desperately needed in our state. We can't afford to get this wrong. So this bill starts to reform some major areas. And let me go through the 3 major reforms. First, Dogger is required to start revising its injection well regulations. Part of this is using independent experts and stakeholders to develop what we call best management practices in a transparent process. One thing with Dogger, we're celebrating their 100th anniversary, but many of these regulations have been on the book for over 20 years, and as technologies change, they have not changed with the times, as we found out with fracking. Even though the technologies had changed, they didn't adopt any changes of review. The second main reform requires that Dogger review all its regulations and other rules every 10 years. As I said, things do change and they need to be up to date. I always ask them at a hearing, tell me something I don't know, because usually there's some new technology out in the oil and gas division that's brand new and that we have not been aware of. We certainly don't want any other issues like fracking where you can't tell what chemicals are being used, how they're disposing of their waste fluid. The third reform is there's a loophole that allows some oil and gas related activities to avoid being reported to Dogger. We want to close that loophole. It does not limit any, but the regulator has to know. So this is a problem. It is deserving a solution. These are reforms that I think would do well to protect the health and safety of the people that we took our oath to safeguard. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Pavley. I'll call upon the supporters of the bill now.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Grinberg. I'm with Clean Water Action. We support this bill. We do understand it's a work in progress. However, it's a great starting point as a framework for reforming this program. The problems with Dogger and specifically the UIC program have been well documented, and as Senator Pavley noted, in that most recent hearing, many new problems came to light. We do have a great opportunity now, though, to start ensuring that this program moves forward and gets fixed. And this is the first bill that I understand that there are other proposals out there, and we really see this as an opportunity to make California's implementation of the UIC program a leader nationwide and take this opportunity of, pretty massive failure and the crisis of the drought to really clamp down on making sure our aquifers are protected from this type of disposal and enhanced oil recovery activities. The pieces of the bill that we strongly support are transparency, updating of regulations, the 10-year iterative review process, as well as more information about what kind of chemicals are being injected into wells. So ask for your aye vote.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello, I'm Brianna Mordick with the Natural Resources Defense Council. We strongly support SB 248 to reform California's underground injection control program. The primary mission of the UIC program is simple: to ensure that underground injection does not endanger drinking water. By nearly any imaginable measure, California's UIC program has failed to meet that goal. California's program has in fact been flawed since the start, when EPA granted primacy to California to administer the program more than 30 years ago. Under the supervision of the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources, the UIC program has been mismanaged for over 3 decades, culminating in the present crisis the state finds itself in today, with the revelation that the state has improperly permitted more than 2,500 wells to inject potentially toxic oil and gas wastewater and other fluids into federally protected drinking water aquifers. This isn't just hypothetical drinking water. Records from the State Water Resources Control Board shows that at least dozens of these wells are located within a mile from public and private drinking water wells, and in their judgment, some of these aquifers have possibly been destroyed. The full extent of any contamination remains unknown, but this is a serious threat to public health and safety. The state's plan to fix this problem is not to stop it, but rather to give the oil industry official permission to keep doing it by declaring this drinking water exempt from the environmental laws designed to protect it. While this would technically bring these wells into compliance with state and federal regulations, it would fail to adequately protect California's dwindling and drought-threatened drinking water. This is just one example of the shortcomings in California's UIC program. The problems are pervasive and fundamental, and nothing short of a complete overhaul of this program is needed in order to adequately protect the environment and public health. SB 248 is gravely needed to reform California's UIC program and ensure our drinking water is protected in the manner that the program's authorizing statute, the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, demands. SB 248 fills gaping holes in the current regulatory structure, including requiring operators to disclose such fundamental information as the composition of fluids that are injected into these wells, to demonstrate that the geology is appropriate for such injection, and regulating these wells based on their specific functions and the unique environmental threats that they pose. The creation of a modern data management system for all this information is another critical function of this bill, given that the current dysfunction in California's UIC program is rooted in serious data mismanagement. Dogger has repeatedly shown that it is unwilling or unable to ensure that underground injection does not endanger California's drinking water, and therefore we strongly support the reforms in SB 248. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other?
Bill Alio for the Environmental Working Group. To be fair to Dogger, they didn't drop every ball in the underground injection control program, just some key important things, and SB 248 will close those gaps and make sure they come up to snuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did on behalf of California League of Conservation Voters, and I'm also asked to do a Me Too on California Association of Environmental Health Administrators.
Thank you.
Leif Douch on behalf of Save This SB and Citizens for Responsible Oil and Gas in favor of the bill.
Thank you, sir.
Trudy Schaefer for the League of Women Voters of California. And while this is still before our legislation committee, we expect to support the bill. We have supported similar ones in this session, and we're strong supporters of SB 4 and contributed to the ongoing regulatory activity.
Thank you.
Olivia Regalia for Sierra Club California in support.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other supporters of the bill? At this time, I'll call the opponents to the bill.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and members, Eloy Garcia for the Western States Petroleum Association. We are in opposition, and like the bill, our opposition is a work in progress at this point. What we're really looking at is how consistent or inconsistent, both in time and substance, are the reforms in SB 248 with what I haven't heard enough about today, which is a significant and comprehensive work plan that Governor Brown's Division of Oil and Gas and Governor Brown's State Water Resource Control Board have jointly submitted to US EPA to bring the program into compliance. This, the UIC issue is largely a data mismanagement issue. We've heard a lot of testimony, both in the informational hearings, in the prior bill and this bill, about 2,500 wells potentially being harmful, potentially being sources of drinking water. What we know about those wells is that over 2,000 of those wells are for oil recovery. 200 of the additional wells are wells where we have total dissolved solids between 3,000 and 10,000. Those are wells that are largely not today or will ever be sources of drinking water. So I think we need to look at the facts a little bit closer. We need to better understand and not take liberty with the facts about what is happening here. There is a comprehensive UIC reform program that the state has proposed and that US EPA is working on, or are working on, that will require a tremendous amount of resources that I'm sure you'll hear about in this year's budget, that will require a tremendous amount of effort by the Division of Oil and Gas and the State Water and Resources Control Board. Our concern here is, are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we consistent here with the regulations that this administration will develop, both in timing and in substance? We really better need to understand whether this bill is meant to be instead of, in lieu of, or in addition to the regulations that will be developed by the state. Secondly, in terms of the data that's required by this bill, it is a tremendous amount of data that is being required. And I think, to borrow from a movie you might recognize, you want the data, but I'm not sure you can handle the data, which suggests that maybe we need to first develop the data management system. We mentioned it before, and we mentioned it again. We think this is first and foremost what we need to put in place. There is a tremendous amount of information that's being provided to the Division of Oil and Gas right now. According to the Division of Oil and Gas, they currently receive approximately 2.8 million data elements per month from production alone. This is information related to the production, injection of produced water, the specifics of produced water. With SB 1281, which was just adopted by the legislature last year, providing more information for water used in oil production, they expect those data elements to jump from 2.8 million to 5 billion data elements. That's a lot of information that is now, under current law, that will be provided to the division. Now, can they handle the information? Can they do something with it? That is, I think, what we need to work on first and foremost. So in terms of the data updates required in the bill, we support that. And we think we should do it faster and sooner, as quickly as we can. The bill also requires for ongoing seismic evaluation. We think that should be done up front and foremost, just like in SB4, we had an independent scientific study, first volume of which is completed, second and third volumes which are underway. We would encourage and support a similar analysis as it relates to the UIC program and seismic activity. We think it should be done. It should be done soon, so that we can address any issues that are legitimately addressed or identified. Again, we understand that this is a work in progress. So what we would like to do is work with the senator to better understand, again, how consistent or inconsistent are the proposals here with the state's very aggressive response plan. We want to make sure that we're not inconsistent, that we're not layering on top, and again, that we can handle the information that is being proposed to be provided here to the Division of Oil and Gas and the State Water Resource Control Board. We will continue to work with the senator, but for now we must be in opposition. Thank you.